Welcome to Lead and Lace. We have the pleasure of my identical twin sister joining us tonight. And we were just debating on how people are going to be able to tell the difference between the two of us because she sounds
exactly
the same. But Dawn's adamantly saying we sound different. So
I don't know. When I listen to you guys, I'm like, damn, this is narcissistic. It's like listening to myself.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah.
No, I think you guys sound totally different. I think you guys look different as well.
Well, definitely.
I should hope you think that.
Yeah, that is always trippy.
It's very weird. It's a very weird
It's a weird thing. It's only happened a couple times in our lives. I think Strick did it to you once.
Yeah, it was at Dad's birthday party. He walked up behind me and put his arms around me, and I was like, ah! And
yeah, I think he felt the same way.
Yeah, and then one other time...
Don has never confused us.
Yeah.
I think you were the only significant other that has never confused us.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. If there is a confusion, it's not a big deal. It's usually like a touch of the shoulder or whatever, back hug or whatever. But the one time that it was like significant and awkward was when Rick Ender ran up to me after a soccer game and like laid one on me, and I was like, ah! You're not my boyfriend. Or one time Heidi came to college. So Heidi went to Steamboat Springs School in Colorado, and I went to Colorado State. And 2 years in, she ended up transferring over to Colorado State. And so I had this like collective of friends.
And it was brand new on campus. I knew no one.
Day one,
and I'm walking down to like the science building or something. I don't know. And, coming from Steamboat, which was like 30 people.
Yeah.
To CSU, it was like
massive.
Thousands.
Yeah.
And I get tackled.
Yeah.
Literally to the ground.
Yeah.
And I was like, Diggs! I'm like,
you.
who the hell? That's my sister.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Yeah. I mean, the first day back in school was just so fun because everybody hasn't seen each other in 3 months.
I had a totally different experience than you. Mine was traumatic.
Yeah. Anyways, we've been talking about a lot of interesting things today, Dawn. I do want to chime in. We've been talking about...
like Furbies. We'll go back and forth all day.
Yeah, you better talk up, boy. Talk up, boy.
Well, I think what we should start out with is Heidi's background.
Yeah.
Obviously, you guys have a lot of the same background.
Yeah.
But where did you guys differ?
We veered in high school hard.
Sure. So why don't you start by introducing yourself,
I would love your perspective
Heidi.
of that because I have a vantage point, but I would love your vantage point of when you feel like it veered.
Yeah. For me, it was Mean Girls.
Yeah.
I mean, you were hanging out with all the Mean Girls.
So yeah, we definitely had a different group of friends that we hung out with. Yours were much more laid back, chill, snowboarder type.
They had penises.
And mostly. And I was trying to hang with the crowds that I ran with in school. So like I played soccer, and so a lot of them
were
were like,
a really good athlete. I was not good.
Yeah, so a lot of times in school, and Heidi and I actually just talked about this the other day, where like I have a higher tolerance for bullshit. And so in high school, I got along with a lot of people because I had a higher tolerance for bullshit.
I also think you have a higher tolerance for social skills. I've had to acquire social skills. You definitely had them right away. For me, I would spend my lunch hours making pottery. Yeah. I was in the art council. Yeah. I was the president of the art council.
You were? I
didn't know that. I know.
How did I not know that?
I was a dork. If you go back and look at, I was looking at the yearbook the other day. This is weird. I went to go take a shower and for some reason grabbed the Grand Blanc middle school yearbook and pulled it out. And I'm like, what were people saying to me in middle school? And it was not awesome.
Yeah, they're bleak messengers. And Heidi was like, why is everyone so angry in middle school? And I was like, remember that one dude who hung himself in the bathroom?
She was like, not remember that.
Yeah.
I was like, man, we had a rough year, but glad we came out alive. I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah, like, who shot up the building? What kind of fucking middle school is this?
We were the first generation of all that stuff. But anyways, going back to our divergence, it happened in high school.
Yeah. So anyways, then you went to school and you studied.
Well, I went to Colorado Mountain College.
Yeah.
And it was a battle royale with mom and dad to get there.
Yeah. I remember that.
I ran away.
What made you guys both choose Colorado for college?
I chose it.
Heidi chose it first. She was ultimately the one
who wanted
to
snowboard. I, in my mind, wanted nothing more than to just be a professional snowboarder. I thought for sure that I could do that.
Yeah, that was a very tangible thing. That
It
was like a
was.
real thing. Like,
Were you on track to do that?
yeah, she was,
I was
fucking good. Like, I remember when
I was really good. I had like a weird aggressiveness to me that like most females did not have. Like I would charge stuff. Can I swear?
Yeah.
I would charge shit, and most women or girls. I mean, we were young. Girls were not charging shit. They were like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
And
I
was like,
remember when,
There wasn't hardly any girls snowboarding at the time.
welcome
either.
to
Yeah.
Cindy Frazier
Yeah.
to the podcast.
No, I mean, I think for when we were growing up and we were probably
We were the only
we were
girls.
equally yoked. First, second, first, always.
Yeah.
And then when we went to college is when Heidi just like
It blossomed.
I remember going to visit her one time and we went snowboarding together and she was doing shit that was so
None of the
beyond
guys were
me.
doing.
So
I was
beyond my
hitting
skill
a
set.
battleship rail that was like
Nobody
8
would
kinks.
hit.
None of the guys were hitting it, and I was hitting it.
Yeah.
It was weird. Like I had some sort of weird thing click. Like
Yeah.
flow state when you get into a flow state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it was for me with
And
snowboarding.
Steamboat,
yeah.
Steamboat with you in snowboarding because I think before that it was like maybe you weren't given the right.
Well,
you know,
I hit my head and I got majorly injured before all that, and I still like. I don't know. For me personally, I think it was like the only thing that mattered. I don't know why. I didn't care about anything else. I only cared about snowboarding. Like I would rather go snowboarding than spend time with family. It was a major issue.
Well, there
with
has to be
mom and
a
dad.
level of recklessness to be successful at anything. Don't you agree?
Yeah, and a level of crazy. We
Yeah.
were just talking about that. Like geniuses, like the Justin Bieber thing. Like, man, dude's crazy, but like he's a genius.
Yeah. At certain things, yeah.
At certain things.
Yeah.
And then a total.
He was a
wreck.
genius at everything.
He was
That's true.
good at
He was
everything.
really good at snowboard or really good at soccer,
skateboarding,
really good at
soccer.
skateboard. Yeah.
Like he's just good at things. I'm
Shaun
not
White's
saying
like
I'm
that,
not saying
too.
I'm a genius. I just think that for me, snowboarding clicked in my flow state. Like how I think music clicks for Jesse in his flow state. You know, I think people have different flow states. Like certain artists have flow states. You just find that and it clicks, and then you get in it, and it's hard to get out of it, and it's hard to see reality outside of that.
Yeah. I don't know if I have that.
You do. Fashion.
Definitely.
Yeah, you for
Fashion's
sure do.
definitely not my flow state. It's my fuck state. Fuck off state.
No, I think you have it with design. Like
I
you
can
have
get
an
into
eye.
a groove on something for sure at work, but I'm saying like as far as like a hobby goes, I don't really have that anymore. Snowboarding for me is fun here and there, but I don't have that like.
Let's not get it twisted. That's how it is for me now too.
Yeah,
You grow out of it.
you do.
You peak. I peaked, and then I.
What's that for
Now I
you?
just go
Do you
down
have
the
like
mountain.
something where you're like, yeah, when you're flowing on it, like when you're working, when you're deployed, maybe.
I think where I find mine is in hobbies. That's where
Like what hobbies,
I
so
mean for
Working out,
like really when I pick a hobby, I like we were
Go
talking
full
about this
speed,
earlier,
yeah.
where I go full speed and I'm
Like
obsessed
elk
with
hunting.
it.
yeah,
And
elk hunting, guitaring, bow
Podcast.
hunting.
You know what's crazy is I've taken up hunting too. and
spearfishing.
There's for sure a flow state in hunting. It's like you're one with nature.
Golfing.
And like even we were pheasant hunting
I
this
don't have
last year.
fingers enough to go over Don's flow states.
He taped off the garage floor
Yeah.
to pack his truck for elk hunting.
That's awesome.
He talked about it for like 7 weeks before he left.
He had a pinpoint demonstration.
PowerPoint.
Oh, yeah.
Pinpoint.
Hunting
PowerPoint
is one of those really great flow state
Yeah,
sports.
so
though.
I don't even necessarily know if it's doing the actual hobby. I think it's
prepping.
necessarily like prepping,
Yeah,
research,
it's
It's the
understanding.
excitement of
Shopping
seeing a
for
deer.
it.
Oh my god! This year I was in a deer blind with 2 of my best girlfriends. So it was 3 girls in a deer blind. My dad was like, "That's a best country song ever. Why don't you Jesse write that country song?"
Yeah,
but it was
Who
3 girls.
sings that song?
Nobody yet.
Miranda Lambert, I'm sure. I bet you it's like a Miranda Lambert
It
song.
needs to be.
Yeah.
So we're in this deer blind, and everyone's like, "You got to be quiet. You got to be quiet." We were not being quiet. I mean, we were talking about everything. We were talking about life, and a big buck came through, and my friend Colin, who's an expert at everything, she's kind of a Bieber when it comes time to things. She's good at everything.
I think we need to find a new person.
Yeah,
it's not
like,
Bieber.
I'm not
Okay.
gonna
Like,
lie. I would be very upset if my kid grew up wanting to be Justin Bieber.
All right, I don't know who to compare it to, but she's an excellent angler. She's an excellent hunter. She's been hunting her whole life, and she's new to some of the sports that we were partaking in, and one of them was archery. and she had her compound bow with her and drew back on this huge buck that walked through while 3 girls were chit-chatting in a blind, not being quiet. And he was like maybe 20 yards from her. Perfect shot. He went broadside right in the lane. She pulled back on the bow, and the bow pushed forward, and like I don't know what it's in front of the bow, but it hit the plexiglass in the blind and spooked the deer. And he looked at her, and she got the shot off before you could spook, but missed him. And man, all 3 of us looked at each other. We're like, "Did that just happen?"
That's pretty amazing.
I texted Justin, "We just got a deer." And he goes, "What? You killed the deer?" And I was like, "No, we missed him, but he came through." He's like, "Heidi, you didn't get him then." I'm like, "Yeah, but it was so exciting."
But it felt like we did.
Yeah.
And that like rush of adrenaline, it's the same rush of adrenaline you get when you hook a fish or when you're snowboarding.
Yeah.
I'm an adrenaline junkie. So like anything that I get like that,
High off.
like
of,
I think
yeah.
I could be a drug addict because
Yeah.
I love
That high.
of adrenaline.
You're
And
chasing
hunting
it.
is,
Yeah,
I mean,
so
I get that.
when I was going through instructor school for the Navy, it's basically a series of briefs that they have you get up there so you can learn to talk and not say and like I still do. But
Yeah, I do too. It's hard.
with one of the projects that you had to do, or one of the briefs that you had to do, was a passion project. So it's supposed to be a slam dunk, easy,
Yeah.
talk about your passion.
Passion.
I'm like, I don't have a passion. I shift so often. I was into golf, and then I'm into this, and then I'm into that, and I just keep moving on. But so kind of what I went with for my passion project is learning and diving into things and understanding them and understanding the complete perspective of what it is to like be,
That's
to
interesting.
be in those things. And that's really what I love.
You and I are a lot of alike because I grew up with 2 kids who were extremely passionate about their skill sets. Holly, fashion, Jessie, music. Heidi was like a black sheep. Like I knew I liked being outside, but for me, environmentalism wasn't like a passion. It was like, okay, well, what is my like Jessie or
thing?
Holly
Yeah.
career? Like they both went into careers that were extremely passionate. And for me, that was not.
It's funny because
But I think learning is a passion.
Yeah.
Just continuous
Evolving.
learning.
You're always really passionate about things, though. Like you loved art, and you were, I would say, or argue to this day that you're more creative than I am. And the fact that I'm in a creative field and you're not doesn't make you not creative. You just don't
Yeah.
practice it daily. You practice it in your free time. Now, for me, I come home and I don't want anything to do with it.
Well, I think
'Cause
that's
I'm
one of
banked on
the,
it, you know?
the biggest reasons why I was disappointed with college is because I went there thinking, okay, this is the vessel where I'm going to get to learn all this stuff and I'm
Yeah.
going to get to do all these,
It's worthless.
I'm going
College
to
is
school
It's a
for,
disappointment, yeah.
for business, and it's going to teach me these things.
All these things, yeah.
And I'm going to leave,
so
I'm going to leave with
prepared.
the recipe.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
I know.
And
Leave
so,
with a piece of paper that gets you a job.
yeah,
barely.
exactly. And then, oh, by the way, you still have to go do all this other research because none of that actually applies to
mean
real
anything
life.
anymore. Yeah.
And so,
Which is
kind
so-
of on your point of saying, Heidi, you just go out and draw, and you just go out and color and paint and make shirts and all these things. And so you get to tap into your creative side without
Yeah.
having to fit inside of a structure or not be able to fully develop what you want to do. Like Holly, you can't over design a swimsuit.
Yeah.
Because it's got to
So a
fit
lot of
into
parameters.
budget and the customer
Yep.
and all of these things.
Has
Where
to be
Heidi, you
just
can
right
go
for
make,
J.C. Penney's.
Yeah.
you got to go make
Jeez.
whatever it is you want.
What's interesting though
Yeah.
in my career, because I took a very technical path, I went into watershed science, which like most people don't even know what the hell.
Can
that
you explain
is.
that?
Yeah. So I went to Steamboat, going back to like my
The genesis
yeah.
of it all, yeah.
I went to Steamboat and I had a professor. I had outdoor leadership classes, which like if I could recommend
Park ranger.
anything for any kid, it's to take some outdoor leadership classes. Because regardless of what industry you go into, and I think this is what really ties in well with like military background too, is like your leadership skill sets are crucial in
Yeah.
any career. And you don't learn that in college. You don't learn that in high school. You don't learn that in any field really, other than just like experience. But I learned that at Steamboat. I had outdoor leadership, and we went to Utah, the Canyonlands, and we went backpacking for 7 days. I was the only girl with all guys. And we went back through in Utah, and I had like literally no backpacking experience coming from
Why
Michigan.
were you the only girl?
Because most girls weren't signing up for that shit. I was the only one that's like, yeah, that sounds fun. I want to do that. And then I had to go buy some boots from Walmart and wrap my feet in duct tape because they were so blistered the entire time.
That's so wild. I like that.
But like that professor, I loved that professor. He was incredible. I was reading Thoreau, and I was reading all of these crazy,
Tolstoy.
Yeah, and I was reading the Sand County Almanac and all of these like ecological books that were talking about environmental activism and how what it means to be an activist and what it means to actually be a conservationist. Because that whole thing was new to me, and transcendentalism and all this stuff. And I was just like diving in super hard on this. And my professor of that outdoor leadership class, we had a lot of time. We were hiking 7-8 hours a day together.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, you know what you should go into? You should go into water, because I think we'll be having wars over water instead of oil in the future. And that's something that's a precious resource that we are taking for granted. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, and I was a moldable. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I was in ski and snowboard business at the time.
Yeah, she was like, I called her one time and I'm like, what class did you have today? She's like, oh, boot fitting.
Yeah.
I'm like, excuse me? She's like, boot
That's
fitting.
awesome.
Legit.
I'm like, what do you mean boot fitting? Like you put a boot on and see how it fits? She's like,
Yeah.
yeah. Precisely what
Yeah.
it is.
There's actually a science to boot fitting, and like how to actually tune a snowboard or skis properly. That was a class.
I mean, that's cool. That's a lifelong skill that you appreciate.
Yeah.
If you work in the snowboard industry.
But
Well, I think her original dream to go back was to like own a snowboard mountain. Like one day she's like, look, I want to own a ski mountain. And I just heard this story the other day, and we were talking about like themes that we wanted to maybe discuss during this podcast. And one of them was like troubles in transit, and Heidi and Dawn have been making fun of me for the last 48 hours because they're like,
wait,
what do you mean your car breaks down? What? I don't understand. What does that mean?
Well, I don't want to talk about flat tires.
No, but listen, so there's this story that I heard that it resonated with me. It was a guy who grew up in Detroit, and he wanted to play for the Tigers. Like that was his dream. And he wasn't able to do that. And eventually he became really good at other things. And, it's a long story. I'll shorten it real quick and just tell you that he ended up making millions of dollars doing something else, and he now owns the Detroit Tigers. So instead of playing for the Tigers, he now owns the Tigers. And so sometimes like life throws you curveballs, and you're not going to necessarily get what you thought you wanted, but you'll get it in a weird way.
Yeah,
like you'll go around it
that depicts my career path pretty
100%.
identically.
Yeah.
Like I work for a furniture manufacturer.
Exactly.
Like,
That's kind of where I was going with it. Like, it's not necessarily like when you were on that hiking trip and he said you should go into water, it's not necessarily what you pictured for yourself.
But I did go into water. I mean, my first 9 years of my career were cleaning up water.
That's true. You did do it.
Yeah. I did a lot of remediation work for the Department of Energy, and wow, that was crazy
Talk
experience.
to us about that.
So sorry. Yeah. Let's kind of keep this in a linear fashion so that we can follow. Because you have a lot of really good stories and perspective on your trade, and I don't think it's something that a whole lot of people know. So
yeah, it's a weird path.
So
it is. It's not.
So you were in college, and this professor.
Yeah, this professor told me to go into water, and so I got my associate's degree from CMC, Colorado Mountain College in Steamboat, and built some really great friendships there, but then ended up moving to Colorado State University, which is where I got tackled by one of Holly's friends.
He was just excited to see her, by the way, to preface that.
Well, he was excited to see you, but he didn't realize you had a twin.
Yeah, I didn't really tell anyone I was a twin. I still don't that often. In fact, the other day at work, I was like, oh, my twin sister's here, so I have to leave. And the whole room was like, what? You have a twin sister? You worked here for 2 years and nobody knows that? I'm like, you don't go in and go, hi, I'm Holly Fraser. I'm Holly Swope. I'm
not
a twin.
like an identifier.
I just announced myself as Holly Fraser. What's
so
weird.
I went to Colorado State, and I got into their watershed science department, which is a very weird. I don't know, honestly, what was going through my mind at the time, why I got into that.
Why?
It was all men. I was like one of 3 girls in the entire department.
Yeah, Colorado State's really heavy in the agricultural
Yeah,
and
it's an ag
engineering
school,
schools,
and their geology program was
Amazing.
intense and amazing. And
their engineering school's amazing.
yeah,
and
so
intense,
I
yeah.
was one of 3 girls in this department, and when I graduated, I mean, only 20 people graduated from this department.
That's how my fashion program was there. I think
Yeah,
Colorado
it was
State,
niche-y,
I think,
yeah.
is a very underrated university.
I agree. It was a great education.
Like, I learned so bloody much. And when I compare it to my friends, I'm like, oh, you didn't
Same.
take that class?
Yeah.
You didn't take Calculus 3? And wait, what? You didn't take entomology? The study of bugs? Like, all these crazy classes that I was offered. I don't think a lot of people had those same resources, which is kind of interesting.
yeah,
They did, and they
But
took the easy way out.
there was a lot of Mrs. degrees like psychology and whatnot, but I think I worked my ass off. I mean, Holly and her buds were going out partying, and I was like, oh, I gotta go to the engineering studio or whatever it was called. I mean, it wasn't a studio.
The lab.
Yeah. And do work until 3 a.m.
Yeah. You
and
definitely
highly
had.
abusing Adderall.
Oh, see, I didn't. But I also I was up late all the time sewing and doing like my thesis project.
You had a different type of work ethic for sure, but it was work ethic nonetheless. Anyways, I got a degree from that and then went into the Department of Energy immediately because I got in through a professor who was like, hey, if you don't mind getting your boots dirty, I have a job for you. That's literally what he said. If you don't mind getting your boots dirty, and I, at the time had no idea what the fuck that meant.
Yeah.
But it was literal. Like, you're working in the field 70% of the time with snakes and spiders and mountain lions and rats. And you're going to get your boots dirty. But in hindsight, that is the best experience anyone could ever experience, because what it does is it teaches you like all of the modeling and all of the science and all of the math that you do in your academia career.
Apply it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it actually doesn't apply. Like, you can run models all day, every day on what groundwater is going to do. But then when you go out there in the field, it doesn't do what you thought it was going to do. So nature doesn't take the path that you want it to take.
So to like go back to explaining what it is, watershed scientists.
So it's the study of water, basically from the time that a cloud develops from evaporation to the time that water drops out of that cloud into rain, precipitation, and then it falls onto land, and then the path that it takes to get back to the oceans to evaporate. So like a water cycle, basically.
So it's like the life cycle of water.
Yeah. And that like we have a constant state of water on this earth, that we never grow or decline the amount of water, but it moves, right? It transfers to different areas. So like right now we're watching, the ice caps melt. And so they're melting at an incredible rate, which is raising the ocean levels, which is raising the lakes and the river levels. So we're seeing the transfer of water on Earth right now that we've never seen before, because the majority of water right now on Earth is captivated in ice.
Oh,
interesting.
That's super interesting. I do think that that's a misconception, though. I think there's a lot of ignorant people out there that are like, we're losing water, or water's melting and therefore it's going away
just
forever.
Transfers. You never lose water. Yeah. It's a water cycle.
Yeah, it stays the same.
Yeah, it stays the same. Everything's cyclical, right? Like, and I think that's the biggest argument against climate change is like, cyclical behaviors. 100%. There's cyclical behaviors. Like right now in Michigan, we're seeing that 30-year cycle of water levels rising. But what we're seeing is an unprecedented level. We have 1 to 2 inches higher than we've ever seen before. And that's because the ocean levels are higher.
And how is that bad?
Well, it's bad for the property owners along Lake Michigan. They're losing all of their property. We have houses that are literally falling into the lake.
It's so funny because in Big Bear,
it's actually impacting rich white people.
Here's the part that bugs me about what you're saying. And I know you're smarter than me about this shit. But
she's like, but I heard it on
YouTube.
You take
a glass of water and you put ice cubes in it.
Yeah.
And the ice cubes melt. And the water doesn't get higher. It stays the same.
Well, you're talking about that density of ice and the actual
the displacement of water. Yeah.
That's not what's happening though. So like all of our water is captivated in that ice. And when it melts, it is displacing. And it's not going to displace the entire volume of that ice, but it's going to displace a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And a little bit more on a global scale is a lot.
Yeah. But I think what I was trying to get at is, so like in contrast, in California, we were in a 30-year drought about 5 years ago. We got out of it, luckily. 100%. And, you happened to see a huge thunderstorm yesterday here.
Yeah.
So you would never know that we had droughts in California based on what you visually saw yesterday.
I remember when you guys were going to
Yeah, and I think that when you go to Big Bear, I mean, like you said, there's billion-dollar homes sitting on dry land, and they were once on Big Bear Lake.
Yeah.
So it's kind of opposite of what you're having happen. We have happen in California.
Yeah,
Where
Big Bear Lake is such a
they
disappointment.
said it will never
When I was
fill
a
back
kid,
up. Yeah.
When I was a kid, I mean, you know, whatever, probably 25 years ago, that lake was full. And from the backside all the way
To the
through
front,
the proper
When you're up
Big
on the
Bear
mountains,
Lake.
when you really could
and
see
now
it.
it's just sad. I mean, you have
Sand
200
dunes.
yards of
Dunes.
To go back to Mom's
Dry land.
point, and
Dry
I think
land.
this is the number one. So I'm not going to argue climate change being real or not real, because I think that's a moot issue at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think to go back to Mom's point, there are cyclical behaviors in nature, and that's what my point is like you can model shit all day
long.
every day.
It's
and
never
it
gonna do.
never does what you
So
want
this
it
like
to do.
rumor that the world's going to end in 15 years
Or
is
6 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it could.
It could, right.
But to sit here and model that, I don't know if that's a productive use of our resources. I think
Yeah.
there's so many other things. Like what we're seeing along Lake Michigan for me, I mean, Justin and I are on a 10-year plan, right? Like we bought a house a mile from Lake Michigan intentionally because we know that we will have Lake
Front
Michigan
property.
front property.
Really?
Yeah.
Only a watershed scientist would buy our house accordingly.
That's an excellent business
Good
model.
thinking. Yeah. Good thinking.
But that's
pretty
legit.
incredible.
We just watched a place I took Mom and Uncle Pat and Aunt Sharon to last summer fall completely into the lake. The bench, the cement, everything gone.
No way.
And I mean, there's literally
Gone.
people losing their
You were even
houses.
saying like where you were going to get married is no longer there.
yeah,
And that was
the
only a
beach
couple
we were gonna
months.
get married at is completely gone. And not only is it gone, but it's eroded the sand away to the point where it's just bedrock. So there's nothing.
It's pretty interesting. We were watching this space exploration show on Disney Plus, which, by the way, if you know me at all, you know I hate everything Disney related, and some of it's personal because I have an account with Disney, so I have some personal animosity towards them. But they're just it's a bad business practice. We'll get into that later. But Disney Plus, what?
I said, or will we?
Well, I mean, if you want to talk sustainability, recycling doesn't faze them in the slightest. Like we just had a swimsuit come in that had a broken trim, and instead of fixing it, we had to finish making all of them, 10,000 pieces, ship them, air them at our cost, which is $8,000. And you have to pay for the goods, obviously, to get made, which I don't have the equation of that. It was around probably like 20 grand, $8,000 to ship them. And then we had to pay to incinerate them,
Jeez, oh Pete.
destroy them. Now, one piece could be shared, given away.
Because of intellectual property, or
They have a very strong policy on destruction of goods.
it's insane. I
And
know.
so we had to prove that we
corporate
incinerated
policies
them.
need a huge revamp.
Yeah.
You see that all day, every day, where it's
Yeah.
like, because right now I work for a manufacturing company, and it's the things that are getting put in the scrap bins. You're like, oh my God, like that's a $20 piece.
Yeah.
We're getting 5 cents on.
No, these are perfectly good
what?
swimsuits, brand new
Yeah.
swimsuits. We had to incinerate them, and then it cost us $1,000 to destroy them, and then it cost us like another $300 to have a proof of certificate established
To make sure that
to
you
have them come
destroyed
out
them.
and audit them. Oh, sorry. Then we had to pay to audit them, so that all the goods that we claimed to have made were actually in the warehouse. So that was like $400 to audit the goods, then incinerate.
This goes back to a conversation we were having earlier in your daughter's room about, who's the real problem.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's a weird
pollution
conversation because
problem,
I think we're all the problem, right?
Well,
like we
yeah.
all make decisions
Well,
on a
look,
daily
nobody wants to
basis.
point a finger at themselves. Like everybody
Right.
wants somebody to blame.
Well, actually, people do want to point a finger at you. They're the social justice warriors
Yeah.
who want to make themselves feel better about
Yeah.
their lives because
Yeah.
they're
No,
losers.
no. Nobody wants to point a finger at themselves.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be like, oh, you know what?
We talked about that yesterday.
I
too.
totally added to 3% of the world's pollution problem, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
blah.
that's-
Or like, hey, I'm using a Ziploc bag and this kind of sucks, but like, it's also convenient as hell.
Well,
Yeah,
it came across because of the straw thing.
Yeah, we talked about straws. Yeah,
What were you going to say, Don?
Yeah, so I think going back to the conversation of what we were having earlier is, do you have a problem with not being able to get a plastic bag at the store, or not being able to get straws at the store at the restaurants? And for me, I don't care. I personally don't care whether or not I get a straw in my drink. If I can get one, I mean, I think the
well, let's be honest.
Paper straws suck.
We're drinking drinks that don't need a straw, like old fashioned.
Yeah, you
or
guys
Manhattan.
Sure.
You guys
You
are
don't want
straw
a
connoisseurs.
Sure, but
I
like
my straw. Thank you very much.
water, whatever
I'm
the
just
case is.
kidding.
But ultimately, if I see myself plus 330 million other Americans don't use straws, I can see how that definitely has an impact.
Yeah, there's a great meme out there that says says something about like, I don't want to use a straw, said 8 billion people.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
like one straw versus
Right.
8 billion.
Yeah.
No,
and so
I
don't
hear
get me
you.
wrong. I totally understand the impact. And like I said, that part doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm sorry. I don't
That's
care
not the
about
point,
not
yeah.
having a straw
Yeah.
to the point of where I'm going to make a big
I think
deal
most
about it.
Americans agree
But
with you.
when you look at YouTube videos of rivers flowing with dumping
Plastics.
hundreds of millions of pounds of plastics a year into the ocean,
Yeah.
and you go, you think straws or plastic bags is going to fix
Really
that?
make that difference. Yeah, they're the new terrorists. It's a social justice warrior campaign, and I think that is the number one issue right now with any environmental activism or even like social activism.
Yeah.
I mean, you have armchair activism all day, every day
Yeah.
right now that we have
Yeah.
never seen before in this country.
Yeah.
Like when you wanted to fight against racism, you didn't sit on your fucking couch and tweet. You went and you walked
Protest,
arm in arm with someone, and you walked down a street.
Or you
protesting.
hired the first black human.
Yeah, or
person.
yeah, or you
like,
allowed them to come sit at
you
your
did
bar.
something to make a change,
Yeah, like
yeah.
there's actual real actionable change, and I think that happens on a community level. We were talking about this earlier too about politics, like. Real actionable change happens on a community level. It happens with your brothers and your sisters arm in arm. It doesn't happen on a federal level, unfortunately. I think at one point it maybe did. I don't think we're there anymore.
Well, I think one of the biggest. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sam.
I disagree with that. I mean, Kim Kardashian, I mean, she went to Trump, and I don't know that Kanye was so involved, but maybe
Yeah,
a little.
I think he was. Yeah,
And
he got her connections with Jared
Kushner.
Yeah.
Yep. And first response.
Do you think?
First step
do you think
after.
Kim
First step
Kardashian?
It was Kim Kardashian that
Do you think
pushed
there's-
it.
Cindy,
I
can you talk
agree.
into the mic a little bit?
I think that in itself is amazing. And I also think it's good that like people in her stature who are like, hey, I may have gotten here because of a sex tape, but I'm going to use my stature
For
or my
good.
platform
Yeah.
for good. And
She's-
I think
that's
she's
what
really
It's
changing
encouraged
the
her to go
game
and study
there.
law. But yeah,
Yeah.
aside from all of that, like I do think that I hear what you're all saying, and I think that I totally agree with everything you're saying. I think that's the beautiful thing about having different
Civil discourse,
viewpoints,
yeah.
but also having very, very similar endpoints. Like we
Yeah.
all agree we want whales to stop dying because they're ingesting
Oh my gosh.
thousands of pounds
I mean,
of
that
plastic.
photograph is appalling.
But I think the biggest thing for me is like what I have a problem with being served a paper straw is that they're then serving my child
Yeah,
instead of a
plastic
straw.
cup.
They skipped a straw. Don't worry. But then they gave him a big ass plastic cup and
With
a
a
big ass
plastic
plastic
lid.
lid. And when you go grocery shopping, you don't get a plastic bag, but everything I'm buying has some form of plastic in it.
100%.
And so I think it's just the common phrase of like jumping over a dollar to pick up a dime. Like
Yeah.
if you really want to be influential, and some people are like, oh well. It's just a start. It's just a start, Holly.
Well,
like a
I-
start would be
so-
banning all plastics.
For 100%. But so like also don't let perfection be the enemy of good, right? Like so
Totally
let's
agree with
not
that.
let's not let that change our discourse. Like let's not let that change the fact that we're even having this conversation about straws, which is so silly. Like
Yeah.
like I think there's so much
Wait,
out
explain
there.
that. Let's not let
Perfection be the enemy of good. So because we can't
Be perfect.
ban
Don't
all
do anything.
plastics.
Yeah.
Let's not start somewhere. Like we have to
Go
start
ahead, Sid.
somewhere.
Cindy's raising her
Okay,
hand.
so here's the thing. Also, you
have to raise your
I
hand
don't
in this
believe-
household.
I personally don't believe the United States is dumping plastic into the ocean. Maybe you think that. Maybe we are. I don't know. But don't you think it's the tsunamis that go in that bring all the shit back out?
It's
in
not
the ocean,
tsunamis.
all that
Natural.
stuff.
It's not tsunamis. It's actually the infrastructure in other countries. You're right.
Yep.
And we actually, Don and I talked about this
The
morning.
storms.
The U.S. personally is not responsible for the amount of plastic that is swirling in the oceans. In 2030, we'll have more plastic in our oceans than we have fish. That's fucked up. And for people who have children,
I agree.
that should be even more fucked up, right?
Do you know what?
Like,
Do you know
that's
what
scary.
also
to
doesn't
me,
biodegrade?
and I don't have kids.
Do you know what doesn't biodegrade at all? And they said there's like hundreds of pounds of it in the bottom of the ocean.
Nail polish.
Sparkles.
Glitter. They said the bottom of the ocean is like 5 inches deep with glitter.
What?
It doesn't biodegrade.
Yeah, I believe that. That's great. It's a plastic. I mean, that's the thing. Plastic is ubiquitous and it's so well designed and created and curated for our lives. Like, it's hard to remove. Right now, we're trying to remove it from our packaging because we realize and we understand the economic benefit of doing so.
What's the alternative? Paper?
There
and they're
are
cutting
no-
hundreds
no.
of
Listen,
trees.
There are no
listen.
alternatives. That's the problem.
So
Recyclables.
right now in the United States, we have the ability to even think of the next solution.
Yeah.
We're lucky.
We are so fortunate to have a
having
good
this
country
conversation.
Yeah.
to have companies that are like, you know what, I am making profit hand over fist. I may have to spend a little bit more money to not give out plastic bags anymore and give out sustainable bags or sustainable packaging, whatever the case is. But when you're in the other 219 countries in the world, they're like,
we don't care.
I don't give a shit because I'm just trying to buy.
You know what's interesting,
This,
though?
I have to carry my water from this village to this village, and plastic is going to last
so
me
convenient.
25 years, and these clay pots just aren't going to do it anymore.
You know what's really interesting though is we're seeing a shift, and it's happened really quickly. It's astronomical how quickly this shift has happened. I think it's within like a matter of a year, where the investor communities, and like it's funny because we had like the whole push against banks and investor communities, and what was the big the big push from the
1%.
the 1%ers. The investor communities are coming out now and saying, like, hey, if you're not FSC certified, which is like, hey, you're getting
We don't want
sustainably
you.
sourced wood, we're not going to even do business with you.
that is a
We've
big
had
thing.
that happen recently. When that means we're not doing business with them, that we're getting them to help us with like paychecks to our Mexico plants. So like by that not doing business, that means we can't pay our employees if we're not sustainable in our wood sourcing.
Yeah.
Like that is a whole
that's-
nother level.
Yeah,
of
we've had that
sustainability
exact
we're seeing
same-
happen.
we have that
and it's being
exact same
pushed
thing
by the
happening.
investors, which is so ironic because it's what all these kids are in our generation, the millennial generation, we're pushing against. These 1%ers and the investor communities are now pushing back and saying, hey, listen, climate
do
change is
care.
real.
Yeah.
This is happening. And you guys need to make some shifts in your business strategies or we're not going to do business with you anymore. What does that mean? That means you can't pay your employees anymore.
Sure.
So you better change. And we're giving you 1 year.
Yeah.
And we have customers that are coming back and saying, hey, we'll do business with you, but we're putting it in our contract that you're going to get better on a sustainability level in a year, and then in 2 years, and in 5 years, and 10 years. And they're putting it in our contract. And if we don't, guess what? Bye-bye,
Yeah.
bitches. We'll go somewhere else.
Job security.
So it's a totally different world now.
It is, yeah.
Like, you
It
can
wasn't
talk
just an
about
afterthought,
straws, you can
yeah.
talk about plastics, but it's a different
It's interesting
world.
because you had the foresight to kind of acknowledge that this was happening when you were in college. I think when we were in college, it was like a nice to have. It wasn't a must have. It's becoming a
that's-
must have.
You know what? That's so funny, Holly, because that word gets thrown around so much in my industry. Nice to have versus must have. Nice to have. It's like, dude,
we have to have
all
it.
is
What about
kind of
have to
have
have?
to
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, like the fact that we are all okay with the amount of plastics in our ocean being more than fish, we're not okay with that.
Well, I just had
I don't necessarily even think it's that. Like, when you look at the population, you say, hey, are you okay with the plastics in the ocean? 90% of the people, I would say even higher than that, don't even know, right?
Yeah,
when
it's
I
an
go
education
when I
thing.
go to San Diego beaches, they're clean.
yeah.
Except after the rain.
Yeah.
Okay, totally.
Yeah, you're right.
You're
You can't
totally
surf,
right. Yeah,
right, yeah.
definitely don't surf
You
right
get
after the
sick
rain.
as hell, right?
But for the most part, when I go to my beach,
He means naivety
anywhere,
amongst the
I-
masses.
you go and you're like, I have a clean beach.
yeah.
For the most, you guys don't see plastic on your beach?
No,
never.
It's
not
so
really.
interesting because recently, within the past year, we have noticed an increased amount of plastics on our beaches in Lake Michigan.
But-
It's
They clean our
significant.
beaches.
But
so
so
they have a
when-
tram that like runs up and down and cleans the beach.
Okay.
Every,
Not always.
Not every beach,
Not always,
but
but-
Huntington definitely did.
Yeah. So when
Huntington was
but when I go
pristine.
to the beach in a foreign country like Thailand or the Philippines, fill in a country, any country, Dominican Republic when we were down there.
Yeah.
I mean, there is trash all over the place. And so I think a lot of it is just hiding the perception of what reality is, because when I go to the beach here, I go, there's no problems.
Yeah, everything's great.
This is somebody else's
We have clean
problem.
water coming out of our faucets. Everything's great.
Right. And
Except
so-
when you're in Flint.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I could see the plastics in the ocean conversation going over better to one of those other countries.
Yeah.
Who go, I have
it's
plastic
everywhere.
all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because we see it everywhere in Lake Michigan now. Like I was telling Don earlier, it's amazing to me. Like you expect the sand toys and the Crocs and like the normal beach shit to wash up. But what you don't expect is the plastic pellets from industry. And I only know that because I've been an auditor and I've been in industry. So I know what a plastic pellet looks like, but they're everywhere.
But do you
on our
think that's
beaches.
because Lake Michigan and the Mississippi River and all those have actual
Industry.
more industry
Yeah,
around them?
perhaps.
Maybe.
There's only
But like,
what?
what
There's
the
a
fuck are they
desalination.
doing? Just dumping
He's
in the
got a
water?
good point. Think about it. There's not a lot of industry on the ocean. Who's going to pay oceanfront
We
property
have
for
a lot
industry?
of oil industry, but
Yeah, we have a
not
nuclear
plastics.
plant,
A
and then
nuclear
we
plant,
have
that's it.
a desalination
Oil,
plant.
yeah.
Yeah, he's got a good point. Like think
Yeah.
of the dumping ground for a river to a lake is much bigger.
When I audited the stuff I saw, I was like, damn,
but
what's happening?
I have to say, back to I kind of didn't even finish my thought about the Disney thing. So we were watching this show about the rovers. What was it? Spirit and there's two rovers on Mars, right? Or there were
Endeavor, was that the other one?
Endeavor,
Mars
maybe?
rovers.
Prosperity
Who cares?
and
Who
whatever.
cares?
I don't know. There's stupid names, but regardless, the thing that's so profound to me is that the entire purpose of being on Mars is to find water.
Yeah,
Like the entire
yeah.
purpose. Oh, that granular was once
Because they
developed
realize you
in
can't
water,
have life without
therefore
it.
it must have been water. And like that's literally billions of dollars being spent to find water. And we live on a planet where there's beautiful water
we
and
take for
beautiful
granted.
watershed that's not being taken care of. And I think that's just a profound dichotomy that I found when I was watching it. It was like, holy fuck, the amount of money you guys have spent in R&D and figuring out how to get there and then how to land and then how to rover and then how to maintain the rover for 4 years to find
potentially get
a
that information
granular
back.
of
H2O.
finite rock that once might have been derived in a lake bed. Instead of just
Taking care of what we have.
plastic banning and taking care of what we have. I think that was my point.
You
was
know,
like
even coming from Colorado,
jumping over $100 million to pick up a fucking penny.
Yeah, even coming from Colorado or California, where you guys are a little bit water. You're not water rich, right? Like in Michigan, we're water rich. We have the Great Lakes, which is the largest body of fresh water
water.
in the U.S.
Right.
And so we take it for granted. And now with our water levels rising, we're like, oh, we got so much of it. Fuck it. Let your faucet run while you're brushing your teeth. Let your shower run and get hot before you get in. Like these are weird practices that Michiganders take for granted. So even from a state to state level, there's differences in how we look at resources.
Psychological differences.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just interesting. I think that was something I found profoundly interesting as I was watching that show. It was like, holy crap, knowing what you do for a living and how passionate you are about it. And then, watching things happen in China when I'm there face to face with it. It's just a joke, You're like sitting there getting read on a bill of rights on how beautiful their recycling habits are, and I'm looking out the window going, "What about that trash pile right there?"
Listen, business as usual is no longer going to fly, and I think that pertains to a lot of practices. But I think
Innovate or die,
specifically sustainability is innovate or die.
Yeah.
Like you're either going to be a dinosaur in the industry or you're going to innovate.
I think that you have a very unique perspective on the whole sustainability and almost hippie type of lifestyle. Because
I couldn't think of a better word. That's dumb brain farting right there.
yeah, well, because you are very liberal leaning in a lot of your outlooks, but you still voted for Trump in this last election.
You know what's weird
And
is
Cindy didn't bring that up.
you know what's weird is I think there's so much that we lose sight of because we don't have that civil discourse anymore. And I think there's a lot that we're doing. So like from a conservative perspective, like conservation to me means you conserve the land, water, the financial resources. Everything I do in my job is not only fiscally conservationist, but it's also socially conservationist. So like every project that I've implemented is not only environmental improvement, it's also a cost savings for the company. They're easy wins.
Definitely.
So I think, but like, why the fuck did it take me coming to this company to tell them, hey, like this is low hanging fruit here. You're doing this and it's costing you this much. You could send it to this paper mill and get this much more for it. And that is getting 100% recycled. And then we buy it back from the paper mill and we reuse that product. So it's a circular economy. Why are we not thinking like that? Why are we thinking so linear?
Totally. So I guess how did you not fall into the?
It's the artistic
I don't
side
want to
of my
say
brain.
I don't want to say the trap of being a liberal, but because
There's no traps. I think that
because
like,
I have a very liberal outlook when it comes to a lot of social policies,
too.
and I think you do as well. But you're also fiscally conservative,
100%.
and you're for the business as far
100%.
as
You got to make money.
gotta make money. You got to make it happen.
Yeah.
How did
There's a
you
lot of
going
low-hanging
Broke people don't pay my bills.
going to the college you went to, being in the industry that you're in, how were you able to break apart from everybody else that you work with, who is kind of that bleeding heart liberal, like you were describing one of your friends?
Keeping an open mind. I mean, I think there's a weird, and I have a lot of civil discourse with my friends. Every one of my friends is a liberal, and we have amazing civil discourse. I think there's a point in America where we stopped having civil discourse. I don't even think people know what that means.
Define it.
To me, it means having open, respectful communications with others that you may not agree with.
Sure. I think one of the best ways
learned
it was
so much
described for me on social media was road rage. So when you're scrolling through Instagram or you're scrolling through Facebook, whatever the case is,
Joe Rogan describes it like that.
Oh, maybe it was.
Yeah.
I got it from that. And so you're scrolling past this post and you're like, oh, fuck that guy. That's a terrible opinion.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And you get it out and then you scroll up. And
She does that.
And it's,
all day, every day.
who's she?
Cindy Frazier. You have a hard time. It's interesting because you and I have a great relationship on this, and you've actually complimented me on this. But for most people in your life, you cannot have civil discourse with and talk about,
She writes him off.
anti-Trump or anything against Trump. You write them off immediately, except for me. For some reason, you're able to have that conversation with me.
I think it's probably
That's not
because
true.
you're.
Ellen is my only best
Yeah.
friend. And she's
a liberal.
Trump.
Yeah,
That's great.
It's true.
Well, that's
Actually,
good for
Mom
you,
does.
Ellen.
She does have a handful of people that she can have civil discourse with, but I think she has to respect them and know that they're
coming from a good place.
They're coming from a good place, and I think I
think liberals struggle with that with Trumpians. I think there's a
it
certain,
goes both ways.
Yeah, it totally does.
Exactly.
It totally does.
Because I've had Mom be shut down before she even opened her mouth in a room, amongst family members,
Ooh, yeah.
And you're like, but she didn't even say anything, yo. And give the woman a shot. So even
and
here,
no one
she's
is more educated on politics really in our family than Mom.
But also,
which is
like,
ironic.
even just look at the situation we're in right now. She hasn't spoken very much. She listens a lot. She
Yeah,
doesn't
you
speak
do
up
listen
unless
a
she has
lot.
something really valid to say. So when she does have something valid to say and someone snaps at her and shuts her down, she gets pissed. She gets pissed. And I think she has a right to be pissed a little bit. Because she's like, fuck, man, I haven't said anything all fucking night. I said one thing and you shut me down. Like, give me a break.
That's
I
the one
can have
thing-
an opinion.
I
That's
don't
the one
think. I don't
thing-
think it's necessary. When I've seen that happen, it's not necessarily because of that one conversation or that one piece. It's the prehating over several conversations.
Yeah.
That somebody's like, okay, Cindy, I get it. You're a
Disrespectful.
conservative. You don't believe in this, this, and this. I know that. I already know you're going to have an
Yeah.
opinion on that, and I'm not saying those people are right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that's where I think that criticism comes
Well, you just
from.
nailed it for me. It's not about being right or wrong. It's like, hey, this is where I'm coming from. This is why I believe the way I believe.
Yeah.
Let me listen to you. What do you think?
What do you think?
It's just like we were doing puzzle earlier. Like, It's so weird because this puzzle I bought is fucking astronomically hard.
Yeah.
She bought it for Merrick when he was like 2.
And we're 35 and can't fucking put it
your
together.
kids are smart as hell.
Yeah.
Do not underestimate their intelligence. But what's interesting is like I would put a piece together and in my brain it looked like it fit, and then I'd show it to Don and he'd be like, nope, that doesn't fit. And then he would do the same for me, and I'm like, nope, it doesn't fit. But for whatever reason, your brain tells
Says
you
it
that
fits.
piece fits. It's the same thing, I think, for politics. Like you look
Yeah.
at it and you're like, hey,
This
this
fits.
fits. This makes sense.
Well, it fits
to me.
your personal narrative.
It fits your narrative.
That's exactly it.
It doesn't fit the mass personal
Yeah.
narrative.
I think this analogy is perfect because
It is perfect.
the
Puzzle
goal
pieces.
is to fix the puzzle.
Yeah,
It's
the overall
and so,
puzzle.
and so you're
we're
going
both
through
going
it.
towards the same goal.
Yep, and so you're going through it and you're looking at it and you're like, I really want this piece to fix.
It has to
Everything.
fit. It
I
must
want it to fit in there. I want it to fit in
I'm
there.
just gonna shove
so
it
you
in.
visualize it fitting.
Yeah, so
the colors don't match.
And then someone will tell you, no, abortion's wrong. And then all of a sudden your puzzle's broke.
Yeah.
Or no, gay rights are wrong. And all of a sudden your puzzle's
But
broke.
why does that break your puzzle?
Because-
why is that not just like a hey? I
Because the
appreciate
piece
your
is
opinion on
because
that,
the piece
but
is
this is how I
decisive.
feel.
Because the piece is decisively different in opposing matters. It's not blended. There's not a blended piece yet. I think that's to come. We have Republican and Democrat. We don't
Yeah.
have a blended piece
Yeah,
yet.
there's-
There's
think
no
it's-
blended puzzle.
I think it's because
The two-party system
society
is
says that you have to have or this or that opinion.
Yeah.
You can't say
You can't be a Republican
you
and
can't
believe in
say
abortion.
that I have no idea about gay
I
marriage.
totally
Like,
disagree.
I think the thing in general right now that's so awesome is that there's this whole narrative shifting, and no longer is it that liberals are for African Americans and gays and people who want abortion, and there's all these like new perspectives where it's like, wait a second, Republicans
humans.
can be for that too, or there's a lot of neutral party people out
It should
there.
be a human party.
It's
Like,
a
we care
human
about
party,
humans.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, why does it have to
Same
be
with environmentalism.
so
Like,
divisive?
There's this crazy statistic out there now that humans are ingesting a credit card size worth of plastic weekly. So like ingesting.
that's weird.
I have heard that.
but on the
I
So
have
like,
heard that.
what, regardless of your thoughts or opinions on the environment, how do you feel about your fellow humans? How do you
Eating
feel about your
plastic.
children eating plastic?
Well, think about all the autoimmune diseases that exist today. It's like, what the
So
fuck?
many.
In the 1920s, people weren't dying of autoimmune
or
diseases.
cancer. I mean, think about it. Your friends who have
Yeah,
been
but they died of
diagnosed
the
with
flu.
cancer. Yeah, or
I know,
like
I hear
silly
you,
shit.
but I'm just saying,
yeah,
it's-
diarrhea.
I mean,
A
we're
lot of
live
people.
right now.
It still
it's
does
not,
in Africa.
It's not uncommon to live to 100.
Mamma
So
mia.
it's to compare
I've been dead
us
multiple times.
It's not really fair to compare us to the
I'd have been dead
1920s
last
or the
night,
1800s.
I would have died in a motherfucking sleep last night, man.
I know we
Shit's
woke
getting
up.
rough around here.
We had deviled eggs last night for dinner, and I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, "Oh, deviled eggs."
Deviled bitches.
My stomach hurts so
You think
bad.
that's what that was?
I don't know, because Don said you guys had them and you didn't feel it. So
I felt fine.
We diverged from politics to deviled egg diarrhea.
Well, I mean, we were originally talking about Heidi's fucking career path, and that
my
that
career
ship-
path is weird.
that
You know,
ship
it's
sailed.
what's funny is like mom and I just had this conversation, so I can say this in front of her. But like, I think it's so funny how when strangers ask mom and dad how their kids are doing, they're like, "Oh, they're great." Jesse, well, he was up for a Grammy this year, and Holly, well, she was in Forbes magazine, but Heidi,
She's saving the whales.
I'm not really sure what Heidi does.
No, that's absolutely inaccurate. We had some friends over last weekend, and I had to go and deal with baby humans for about 3 hours extra that I didn't plan on. So my mom ended up entertaining my friend in the hot tub.
That's awkward.
I came back and she was like, and then mom actually was like, "Oh, good, I gotta go to the bathroom." Like, thank God you're back. I've had to pee for 2 hours.
Tag, you're it,
Yeah. So, anyways, I came back and she was like, my friend Kim was like, "Gosh, your mom just really speaks so highly of you kids. Like, it's insane. I've never heard a parent so proud to have 3 out of 3 successful."
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
Unheard
weird.
of.
You
We were
guys
talking
are
about this.
really weird.
Yeah,
really
I think
weird.
it's
are weird.
because we have
Because-
left and right brain. We have 50-50. We use our left brain and our right brain 50-50.
I
All
totally-
3 of us do.
I totally agree with that. And when I tell my friends what you guys all do. I'm like, yeah, Jesse up for a Grammy. Holly, she's in Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
And my sister is a watershed
Not
scientist.
as a model. Let's just preface that.
What?
Actually, more successful. More successful.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Instagram post recently? Showing it in Sports Illustrated. But that's okay.
So then, yeah, and you're a watershed scientist. So they're like, well, how do you fit in? You're in the military.
Oh man,
Like-
Justin and I, this is so funny. Justin and I had this conversation when we first started dating.
What?
He literally was like, how can I compete? Your brother-in-law is a Navy SEAL and your brother
Navy
is a
SEAL?
fucking musician and super successful in Nashville. I can't compete with your family.
And then did you tell him I'm not a Navy SEAL?
No, we were like dying. I was dying laughing, and I'm like, I'm really sorry. You're right.
you admitted to it instead of.
There's no way you could compete.
You're fucked, bro.
You're good, dude. I love you the way
Even-
you are.
But
Just
even,
stay
and not just
you.
us, like our cousins are successful. Like, you know,
Everyone's
Pam,
successful in our
Lisa,
family, yeah.
Jamie is one of the hardest working
yeah.
motherfuckers I've ever met in my
And-
life.
And
Not
Tammy
just-
Caitlin.
not just
Caitlin's
hardest-
incredibly
Look at
successful.
Caitlin.
Yeah.
Not just hardworking as a worker, she's a hardworking mother. She
Yeah.
busts
Well, and that was what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. You're like, I didn't take a break to take care of tiny humans. Being here just for the weekend, it's like, oh my god, it's exhausting.
I know Heidi goes to bed at 9
You
every
guys
day.
do that. I am in bed by 9, and I am so tired. I am batshit tired.
Yeah.
By the time I hit that pillow, and it is.
I think
it's
I was
just
I was under
constant,
the
man.
couch looking for a toy last night, and I got up and my knees were broke as fuck. And Heidi's like, "This is exhausting."
It's so tired.
She's like, "I don't know how you do it."
I don't. I honestly don't know how any
She
women
does
does
it more
it.
than she.
Like
Cindy
my
runs circles
girlfriends
around
who
me.
work and then come home to kids all day. I'm like, dude.
Well, not just work, management. Management, where you have
Yes.
done, Holly,
All day.
Holly, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? $30 million. What do I do? And then I come home to Merrick going, Mom,
Yeah,
Remy, Mac. You literally, you're it's like one of those cartoons where your head spirals the fuck
It's
off.
just like your cortisol levels have to be. It'd be interesting to do a cortisol level.
Oh,
check.
I know my cortisol. I had a blood test. My cortisol levels are through the roof. She's like, yeah, I've not seen cortisol levels this high in a long time. Yeah, they're very high.
It's interesting.
But I operate really well
Yeah,
in high stress.
I mean, I think you guys all do. I mean, you guys have a very interesting dynamic living here.
I think that it's funny when some really high stress situations happen at home, like when Merrick, I think he hit his head one time.
Oh, yeah.
his
and
finger. His finger.
Oh yeah,
I
his
wasn't
finger.
home for that.
And I thought Cindy was going to literally spin out into like a helicopter and just fly away.
You guys are we catastrophize. We
Oh
have
my God.
major-
I
It was
wasn't
like-
home for that. I wasn't
I'm
home
like-
for that. So.
Yeah, but
I'm
like,
like-
you still catastrophize.
I'm like, calm
right?
down, Cindy.
Like,
Calm
no,
down.
I was in
and
the
she
airport,
went into
so I had
like
I had no idea how bad
He's
it really
used
was.
to digging hearts out of people and
she
shit,
went
and I
into
am
like
not.
personal attack mode.
I don't think
like,
God's ever dug a heart out of someone. But I appreciate your sentiment.
No, in the military, they are used to
Yeah, blood
binding
and guts.
up broken.
He's
Well, I mean,
seen-
that's like, I was like, man, you know, for my honeymoon, I don't really want to spend like 7 nights in the woods. You're like, well, I've spent 55 days without taking a shower. I'm like, yeah, bro, that's not me.
Yeah. welcome to my marriage. Welcome to my marriage. He's like, let's go camping. I'm like,
No, that's not me. And I'm an outdoors woman. Like, I fiddle myself outdoors woman, but like,
But he's had total, what do you call it, medical training on resuscitation.
He's seen outward parts on the outside more than we have. Let's put it that way. I had
inward parts
but
on
like,
the outside.
so
Yeah.
just being here for the
Inward
weekend,
on the
though,
outside, yeah.
y'all catastrophize, and we have. I do it too. We all have this like, oh my god,
The
lightning striking!
The
And
lightning
we fucking
strike.
freaked out, or like the coyotes.
scared
We were
me.
all sitting in the hot tub, and it's like quiet and
I know,
peaceful.
poor
We're all
Remy's
relaxing.
gonna have a heart attack.
And then all of a sudden, it was like, ow, 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 and coyotes were blowing up, and all of us were like, oh my god, oh my god. And Remy, poor Remy,
I know
you
because they absorb that energy.
yeah, they
oh my
totally
god,
do,
dude!
man.
Watching them get so spun up, I'm like, oh my god,
It happens a lot.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I know. I'm like, what the hell are we?
Fucking lot.
I mean,
Everything
God,
is a
Hey, let me just give my husband
you know
a
what's so
shout out
funny
here.
is Remy
'cause he
goes,
doesn't get a lot of them.
a lot.
Let me give Don a shout out. He puts up with a lot of feminine figures
energy.
and
You
a
have
lot of feminine energy. He lives with his mother-in-law full time. He lives with a pretty intense wife. Like, he puts up with a lot, and he is, for the most part, extremely understanding and extremely.
Well, you're a great communicator.
Yeah,
we were talking about
He's
this
a great
earlier.
communicator.
You're an excellent communicator. I think there's so many men on this earth that
And
struggle
he's
with
ridiculously
communication
good looking, so
tactics.
that helps because then I'm in a
Ridiculously
fight with him.
good-looking.
I'm like, but you're kind of cute, so I'm just going to
We
let
talked
this
about
go.
that earlier.
Yeah,
Jeez,
really
thanks,
good
guys.
looking.
We talked about that with Bieber.
a
We're
really
like,
big
man,
thing.
he sucks, but he's kind of attractive. So I think that like she probably just surpasses the bullshit.
Yeah. No, it's true. I think you have to be really like intimately
But
attracted to
there's a
somebody.
level of communication that I think most men don't ever find, and
Yeah.
you somehow have tapped into, whether it's your military upbringing or your father being a good communicator. I don't know. Where
Grandma.
did you get your communication skills?
Gremlin.
What were you gonna say, Sin?
Well,
She's raising her hand again.
I'm not sure exactly where he got his communication skills, but living with multi-family members.
Can we just say you're a terrible communicator?
Whoa! No need to go on the attack.
No, it's not tactic. She
What
agrees.
were you going to say? What were you going to say, Mom?
He was helped raised by his two different kind of
Women.
grandparents, and his dad and his mom, and all these different. And so he's used to this multi-family, and so this for
Isn't that
him
weird for him?
Is like probably more normal than most men.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably.
But I wasn't attack. So just to reciprocate, I wasn't attacking. Cindy and I have had this
Sure,
conversation.
sure.
She struggles with saying how she feels because she feels
Confrontation.
bad
She doesn't like
about
confrontation.
how she truly feels a lot. And we've conversated a lot in our relationship about, hey man, if this is how you feel, communicate it in a
Yeah.
way that's not offensive.
Yeah.
Because you can do that early and often so that when it doesn't build up, right?
Sure.
And become an explosive argument. If you communicate early and often, you're not having these explosive arguments or
Yeah.
like you're actually like her and I, we have extremely different political views.
Yeah.
Extremely. We get along impeccably well.
Yeah.
But you know
But not
what?
when you guys live together.
Not when we live together.
Well, we're living together. So I think remind you. But let me.
Cindy, you and I had a breakthrough moment, I think, and I don't know when it was, but you and I,
You've gotten really good.
Well, I think
You
you
talk
guys are
every
both-
damn
It was
day. The
Vegas.
two of you. Every time I see Mom on the phone, she's on the phone with you.
was it Vegas? When, in your opinion, did we have like a moment where you're like, I understand where you're coming from, and I appreciate you, and I respect you? Because I feel that from you.
I don't know. I don't have a clue when that happened. I don't know.
Maybe it didn't.
She's like, maybe it didn't happen.
Maybe it never happened.
You were high. I was sober.
I have no idea.
There's this moment
We've
in
always
Vegas.
been open and talk a lot. So
Yeah, you guys did talk a lot. And
But like, I think it was spending some time one-on-one in Vegas. I left from that trip and I'm like, man, I had a wonderful time with my mom. It was just
Yeah.
me and her.
on her birthday.
It was
is this
November.
last one where
yeah, it was
poor
her birthday.
Jesse and Stevie couldn't
It
come?
was
Yeah,
when
that was
Steve
her
and
birthday
Jesse
trip.
couldn't come.
Yeah, I wanted to go so bad.
We had so much fun. We relaxed.
yeah.
Yeah,
And we
it was nice.
talked a lot. And I think in that moment, you were like, hey, you know what's interesting? Like, I really appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate your opinions. You may not have the same opinions as me, but I kind of appreciate where you're coming from. And I
Yeah.
appreciate that you can see all sides of this.
Well, that was really nice of you to say.
But
Yeah.
also, Heidi, I agree with that though. Like what Mom said to you, I agree with that compliment too, because you definitely do. You're not like argumentative. If someone disagrees with you, you're like, interesting.
Yeah, it is
And then you
interesting.
like, and then you think about it, and then you say what you think. And 9 times out of 10, what you say, I'm like, oh shit, you're actually right. I
Well,
was
you're
wrong.
right too, though. That's the thing. It's not about right or wrong, and that's what I was trying to say earlier. Like
Everybody's a
all
little bit right.
politics are not about
Yeah,
right or
everyone's a
wrong.
little bit
Like,
right, yeah.
everyone is a little bit right and a little bit wrong, right?
Yeah.
But like, hey, man, we're all humans and we're all fucking up.
Yeah.
Regularly.
Yeah, let's like live together on this earth and hold hands. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heidi was just trying to like.
That was free balling.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I was just free balling. She has no headphones on.
It's true though. I mean, I think we just need to be a little bit more empathetic to each other.
Yeah.
We're all going through things. Like you guys as parents are going through things that I will never go through.
You never know. I
Well,
hope that you
maybe.
can have a baby one day.
But
Because
right
I really
now,
want to have
I am
another
not
baby,
going
and I don't
through-
want it. So I'm going to have you have it.
I am not going through the daily struggles that you guys go through as parents. I mean, the amount of worry, like my amygdala gets hijacked daily by bullshit. Yours is getting hijacked daily by real shit.
I know how funny to find out that mom's is swollen.
Oh yeah, hers is too because she's a primary caretaker.
Yeah,
and like if Dawn was a primary caretaker, his would too. That's the craziest thing about what we just learned yesterday about how men, no matter sexes,
actually, let me tell you something. With Remy, there's a completely distinctive difference in relations with Dawn and Remy than there was with Dawn and Merrick. A lot of Merrick's
home.
primitive years where
Dawn was gone.
And
Yes.
Remy, he's been very much more, and I didn't even realize it until Mom said it the other day. I was like, well, I'm home more than Dawn is. And she's like, no, you're not.
No, Dawn's home more.
Dawn's home more than I am. And I'm
do
like,
you feel
holy shit.
closer to Remy? Or do you not think that it makes a difference in your like bonding?
No, I don't think it makes a difference. I mean, Merrick has always chosen Holly. Even when I was around, like he always, I mean, from the minute he came out, was almost like, Heismaning me out of the way to get to Holly. So I was the same way when I was a boy.
Yeah.
Like I was a mama's boy. And, Merrick will reach an age at which point he needs me to fulfill
For sure. You know
that
what?
part
Your
of his
neighbor
life.
was just talking
And
about
I just
that.
need to kind of like be patient with that and wait
He's
for him
ready.
to show up to that. And I just need
That's
to
nice.
always
Yeah.
be
Krista
there.
was just talking about that.
And it's just now happening now with
She
the
was saying her
jiu-jitsu.
husband is home more now than he was when she first had her two little boys, and she's like, you know what? Right now is when they need dad like majorly, and they don't need me as much. But when we were raising them, they needed me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
he
mean,
was off
it's
at work.
normal.
a
Yeah,
lot.
part of it's
very
survival, part of it's like natural way of life, whatever it is. But when Merrick's 9, 10, 11, 12, things like that, that's when he's gonna, I mean, I hope, look to me more on how to grow into a man, how to grow into, just what his role in society is,
Yeah.
because that's what he needs. He'll still always need his mom.
Yeah.
He'll still always need that piece that she gives that I will never give.
And Nana.
'Cause-
Don't you think it's interesting though, like how you, and I think Peter was talking about this with you, and I totally resonated with this. You cannot dictate how your child is gonna be.
Yeah, no, that's
Oh,
the wildest.
man.
That's the wildest thing you ever. It's a wild fucking west, man.
You could have so many hopes and dreams.
You can
so
have
many
30 children, and every single one of them is going to be different.
They're so
You
know,
can have the exact same
I had this-
nurture and nature.
yeah.
conversation with my brother Mitch when he had
He had
his
two
son,
little kids, yeah.
who is now 21.
Yeah.
But he was like, I was an athlete. I wanted a football player. I wanted this. I wanted that.
His son
And
wasn't
I
those
got
things.
a pianist.
That's awesome.
Book
And
reading.
so what he was saying was like, I'm not disappointed that I got a pianist. I'm not disappointed that I got this amazing human.
Yeah.
But I was so naive to the fact that
I could channel this energy into
I could
something.
go to the store and buy a football player.
Yeah, you
You know,
can.
like your son's going to come out the way he comes out,
Yeah.
and you just have to be ready to receive him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
like,
help him
nurture and
with what
channel
you
that.
have, and
Yeah.
understand at a certain point that okay, he's not going to be a football player.
Yeah.
I still love you.
Yeah.
I like no matter what happens.
Merrick is very much that. I mean, I wanted him to be in love with sports because I like
He's
sports.
not.
I really
He's
like
not.
sports. Don's an amazing athlete. Like Don picked up a lacrosse
So
stick
is
one
your
time.
daughter, which is ironic. Remy
Yeah.
is an amazing athlete. It's
profound.
so intuitive in her.
Yeah, it's pretty profound.
Yeah.
She's very good. But Don picked up a lacrosse stick when we were like first married and went out and played with college level lacrosse players, which is highly competitive. And he was amazing. I was so impressed. I was like, oh my God, you're good out there. Like, I didn't know you were good. And it's funny when you're good at something. And he did the same with me with snowboarding. He's like, well, you said you were good, but you didn't say we were like that
fucking
good.
Yeah. We're really good at snowboarding. Sydney, this is a great question for you because you had a son who is profoundly talented in the arts.
Yeah.
He
But
hated
also
soccer.
did football.
He sat on the sideline.
and did
yeah.
soccer, right? But wasn't excelling in those fields.
So when did you acknowledge that? Yeah. Like when
and how did you
I knew all along.
nurture
He
it?
hated it. Soccer. He hated it.
How did you know that? Did he physically
Yeah.
say, I hate this?
Yeah. Same is the same reaction I'm getting with Merrick.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like,
I know Jesse and Merrick are like.
So what did you do?
literally
How did you
peas in a
support
pod.
that?
just don't push them. I mean, let them find their passions.
But how? That's so hard, I think.
Well,
for a parent.
so how we're doing it, and Mom encourages me a lot. It's like, hey, Holly, here's this thing. We need to sign Merrick up. He's really into it. I'm like, okay, Mom. And
like
so
the Code Ninjas.
the Code Ninja thing is something
Yeah,
that he's
which
really
is
into.
incredible.
And, honestly, coding is something that
Dude,
we've had a
you
lot
and
of.
I are going to be fucking obsolete in 10 years.
Yes, me. I'm totally.
No, creatives will never be obsolete.
You're right. Anything that a robot can't create is not going to be obsolete. You're not going to be obsolete. I will. My profession will be obsolete.
I don't know. I
agree
don't
with
disagree
that.
because you think a lot outside of the box. So there's a lot
I
of creative
personally
thought,
do,
yeah.
but my counterparts do not.
It's robotic.
Yeah.
But anyways, the bottom line is
The human piece will never be able to
No.
be
No.
replaced.
Yeah, just
The
like in
emotion
just like
that-
in
No.
space. I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast with an astronaut, and he was saying that too. There's certain pieces in
Yes.
space where he was like, "Hey,
You can
if I
practice
let
it.
the sun heat this
Yes.
bolt up to a certain degree level,
It'll
then I
fit.
can twist it and retrofit it."
Yes.
but if
A robot would have
a
never-
human mind wasn't in space thinking that way, a robot would have never been able to make that calculation. Yeah. I mean, I think there's so many things in the human brain that robots will never be able
emulate.
to emulate.
That is such a bizarre thing that you could have a human and it triggers all these chemical reactions in your body.
Yeah.
It triggers milk production.
Right.
That's fucked
And
up.
then the other thing
You know
that
what's
they
fucked
said,
up is when you have children and they see me as your counterpart, your twin, but they can smell
Yeah.
your milk, and that's how they know that you're the mother and I'm
even though
nobody.
Remy calls you mama too.
Well,
Yeah.
now because she's not breastfeeding.
Yeah, she
Right?
wasn't.
Think
She
about
wasn't a
that.
fan of breastfeeding.
When she
ever.
was breastfeeding, though, she knew you were mama and I was a nobody.
Well, anyways, they were
could
saying
go
on
fuck off.
that show, they were saying that even in breast milk, there's a difference between when you have a boy in the breast milk versus when you have a girl in the breast milk. There's different vitamins, there's different nutrients, different hormones.
And the fathers who were partaking in the fatherhood roles, like changing the diapers,
Baby.
whatever, were developing the same level of, what was the hormone? It wasn't cortisol.
No,
was
it was
oxytocin.
oxytocin, yes.
Like you were developing the same level of oxytocin as Holly.
If you're the primary caretaker.
No, not even. It wasn't even if you were the primary caretaker. He was still developing the same level. His spit would have had the same level of oxytocin as yours during the babyhood.
No, if he was the primary caretaker, that was the big thing.
No, I thought they had the oxytocin thing, but then the amygdala was the same level as the
Oh,
primary
yes,
caretaker.
you're right.
Yeah.
She's right. The oxytocin levels were the exact same.
Yours
between
were the
father-
same level as Holly's.
Yes.
That's fucked up.
And he never had a baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is really weird.
It's like your body just like, boom, I got a father,
pumped up the
I got a
oxytocin. What
caretake.
does oxytocin do, though?
Oxytocin is like, I need to care for this human. I need to love. I need to partake. I need to
He's
protect.
dependent on me.
They're dependent on
so
me.
the male's
They
oxytocin
cannot
was
survive
exactly
without
the
me.
same level as the woman's.
Yours would have been.
But the amygdala was more swollen on the female than it
your
was on the
amygdala
male.
stayed the same, but your oxytocin levels increased.
Right.
But if you were, well, say creatively that you were a gay male and you were a primary caretaker, your amygdala would have been the same size as Holly's.
Not
Same
even-
as a female.
But it's not even gay. Like, let's say the mom died at childbirth.
Yeah, and you were the primary caretaker,
Yeah.
100%. That's insane. That like biology just takes.
So it probably
over.
happened with me.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they were saying primary caretaker.
both
That's
kids.
you.
Oh, it definitely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what they did say. They said a grandparent can also get a
Grandparents,
swollen
yeah.
amygdala during primary caretaking because they
Well, this
they
is
develop
100%
into the
true
primary
with her.
caretaker.
Because we've talked to him like, well, why don't you do this and this and this? Well, I can't leave my babies.
I can't leave my babies.
When she comes for vacation, well, I miss my babies. I miss my babies. I miss my babies. Wait a second, they're not your babies,
Yeah.
but
But
they
they
are.
Yeah, they are very
They
much.
are.
Yeah.
They are my babies. They're
Well, also you have to remember,
What's
mom
fucked
didn't
up
Well,
is
get-
being
I-
a twin
well-
with you. I feel that way, and I would be interesting to do a study on twins with that because
Oh, yeah.
I feel like
Your
Merrick
amygdala
is
is
my
swollen.
child.
Yeah.
I
Your
worry.
oxytocin
I have
levels.
nightmares about
You should
Merrick.
have. You should have your
nightmares about Remy.
oxytocin levels tested.
That would
That'd
be
be really
very
interesting.
It would be interesting. Yeah.
I try to explain that to people, and they shoo me off. Like, oh, like I have
I
girlfriends
bet
who
that's already been done.
I have girlfriends who have
bet
had
they've
children
tested it.
and have shooed me off. When you were giving birth and when you were going through all the shit you were going through with Merrick, and I felt
Stressed. Yeah, it was a
I
lot.
felt all of that. And I even got the melasma,
Yeah.
melasma in my skin, and I like
More than me.
felt it,
I
man.
know. I feel like you actually
took on that
personified
stress.
more than I did. Yeah.
And my girlfriends, I've had conversations with them where they've literally dismissed me, and they're like, well, "You've never had a child, you don't know." And I'm like, "But you don't know because my twin has had a child, and I literally fucking felt it,
Yeah.
man."
Yeah. Like you felt
Weird,
every
isn't it?
moment.
And
of
I
it.
feel that your children are my children. I worry about them in obscure moments of my life. I worry about them, and when it's not natural to worry about other people's children.
Yeah.
I worry about your
She
children.
does call, FaceTime almost
lot,
every day.
yeah. Heidi's
It's
probably one of the
fucked
more
up, man.
frequent.
Yeah, so much so that Remy walks around
Mama.
around the house saying, "Hi, Heidi.
Hi,
Hi, Heidi." Not like, "Hi, Dad."
To Dad.
Yeah.
She
yeah.
says hi, Dada.
No, she does
says
it.
hi, hi.
Hi, Heidi. To me.
It's a fucked up thing. I think they need to do more research on twins with babies
I
because
bet in that episode they probably get to that.
it's a really, really,
It looks
really
like
fucked
they're,
up thing.
They're going that way.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's why I think
interesting.
like people ask me, "Oh, are you gonna have children?" And I'm like, "I have children. What do you mean?"
Well, so that's
No, probably not. But maybe I'll adopt because I already love some children like my own.
But see, that's what I just had a conversation with you recently where I'm getting baby fever, but I don't want another baby.
You're like, "Well, why don't you have a
Like,
child?"
Heidi just needs to do it. Take one for the team, bitch. I already did it twice.
This shit sucks.
Just do it so I get a baby again. I don't want to do it. You do it. It's your turn. Tag,
Rough,
you're
man.
it.
I'll never forget the moment
Jesse, one of
after
y'all.
you had Merrick, and it was such a rough pregnancy. Your pregnancy was
No,
a
the
dream.
pregnancy was great.
Your pregnancy was a dream.
I could
Your
be a
birth-
surrogate if the birth situation
your
was
birth
always
was
a C-section. I could be a
fucking
surrogate.
nightmare.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. It was
And I
like
talked to you moments after you gave birth, and you go, "Don't ever
ever
do this."
I remember holding your hand and looking you in the eyes, and it was probably the most serious moments I've had with you in my life. And I said, "Don't
ever
ever
do this.
Do this."
Don't
and
ever
I
do this.
shouldn't have said that.
And I listened.
I
I listened.
shouldn't have fucking said
I
that.
listened, and I took
like-
heed
yeah,
to that
Heidi's
warning.
very
Duly noted. I will never do this.
Heidi's very obstinately obedient.
Except for strict. We were talking about it earlier. We struggle with obedience.
That was a moment in your life, and now look what we have.
Blink of an eye.
You know
Yeah.
what's
amazing
weird
baby.
is obedience for us came very easily as children, but in a relationship is very difficult.
Don's shaking
You
his
guys
head.
are the most rebellious
Oh, my
group of people
God.
I've ever met in my whole
So
damn life.
rebellious. If you tell
I
me one
love
thing,
it.
if you
I
tell me
love
one
it.
thing, I will
love
do
it?
the
Oh my God.
motherfucking
You don't
other.
love it.
No,
You don't
I
love
do-
it.
no.
You don't love it.
No,
You
no.
don't love it.
Hold on real quick.
You
Let-
don't love it.
Let me,
You don't gotta let it kick it down.
let me explain. Let me explain myself. If I had a wife that I could just get my way every time,
you would
get
be in
bored.
heaven.
I would be so bored.
Yeah, right. You'd be
I would-
backstroking on sugar balls.
It's a sugar bowl. I want that in my
What the fuck are you
life.
saying?
He would love it.
No, I don't think you would. I don't think you would. I think you'd get bored as fuck.
I know. I'm just kidding, y'all.
Strick too.
I'm kidding.
Strick too. I think Strick is intriguingly enough, very similar.
Yeah.
I so when it comes down to the rebellious stage, I think when Holly yields her position and lets me have my way, sometimes I get that fulfillment. Okay, cool. I'm still the man of the house, but at the same time, she makes me earn it every fucking
So
time.
where does that come from? Like, do you need that dominance level? Like, do you like look for like, oh, I need to feel this to feel dominant?
I don't think it's a dominance issue. I without being super douchey, I would like to think of myself as an alpha male.
Yeah.
Like I want to be in charge. I want to run things. I like.
I think you are.
I
an-
like to
Can I
be-
just say I think you are an alpha male?
Oh, I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm,
totally. Yeah.
I lean more on the aggressive side of wanting to have my way, thinking that I've done enough
I think she loves that
to
about you.
to
which is
prepare the battlefield
so ironic.
so that it goes my way.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
when
yeah.
it doesn't, I'm like, So anyways, I love being married to a firecracker. I love not
Good
getting my
segue.
way all the time. I like that when
You're challenged.
Yeah, I like being able to
Intellectually and stimulated intellectually.
definitely.
Yeah. I think intellectual stimulation is a number one priority for me in a relationship.
I agree.
Well, on that note, I think it's a good time to wrap this up. I really appreciate having you here, Heidi, and having Mama Sin.
Yeah, Mama
Here.
Sin sat in.
And
I did just give her a whoop whoop.
all right, guys, have a good night.